Hey, it's Aaron from GameEnthus.com, and today we'll be taking a look at Terrors Battlegrounds. Terrors is a semi-abstract battle game where players will be choosing alliances between two different factions. You can choose more, but usually two different factions, and we'll be battling it out to be the last group standing. Pretty small box, but holds a lot within it. So also, this is a prototype, so the final version will look a little bit different. This is rated for ages 12 and up. Game's about 20 to 40 minutes, and as I already mentioned, it is for 2 players. Let's just see what's in the box. Okay, once the box is open, you'll see a variety of things. You'll see several dice. This is your evasion dice for evading an attack, and these are your surge point dice. Each player will get one. A little bit different, as you see there's an X and the 1 kind of split. So yeah, it'll make sense in a moment. You have a instruction book. I'm assuming the size seems appropriate given the size of the box. You also have 2 player guides, 1 for each player. That makes sense. You probably wouldn't need 3 because this is a 2-player game. Why would you ask such a silly question? So I mentioned you have the relatively small board here, which is intentional, hence the 20 to 40 minute gameplay. Keep in mind, everything here is a prototype and it's not necessarily completely indicative of the final version of the game. And you have the 6 factions. I believe this is season 1. So the 6 factions that are available are the Soldier, the Swamplands, the Zombies, Flying Machines. I guess they're sentient flying machines. I'm going to pronounce this. I'm going to hope that I'm correct. I say wyverns. I've heard wyverns. The gentleman who's making the game says wyvern, so I'm just going to say wyverns, I guess. Even though it feels more natural for me to say wyverns. It probably is wyverns. We have goblins. There was really no debate about how this one is going to be pronounced, so I'm going to say goblins, just to be difficult. And then you have elves. So those are the factions that are available. And you also have 2 bags. One bag has all of the miniatures in it and the other does not. But I mentioned there's miniatures in this game. I'm just going to pour them all over this board. Keep in mind, these are prototype versions of the miniatures. The final one should look more like this. So now that you've seen that, back to the pouring. It's just miniatures everywhere. There's just all these miniatures on you. Just come and get you. Ah, look at that. Miniatures, miniatures, miniatures. So you have the elves, the goblins, the soldiers, flying machines, zombies, the wyverns or wyverns, and the swamplands. Now the game is not just pouring them onto the board and going like this because they're miniatures and they're about the size of a little bit bigger than a die. Kind of fun, I'm not gonna lie. There's more structure to it, so let's get into that part. It might be beneficial to explain what some of the abilities are of the factions that are available. So for the soldiers, their ability is to march and phalanx. Marching meaning you can move 2 other soldiers up to 2 spaces each. Phalanx, you can ready the soldier. Already this way, the next time the soldier battles or retaliates, it gets a +1 threat. Your threat is like your health. So for the swamplands, spear skewer. Until the end of this turn, the swampland may battle at 2 range. They are a melee a character, as are the soldiers. So they are melee. See, it says melee right there. Melee. So swamplands are also melee, but one of the abilities is they can attack at 2 range, which is pretty cool. And kickstart, which is a trait. When you rest a swampland, if you have 0 surge points, you gain 2 surge points. That's kind of nice. Zombies. Zombies are also melee. The abilities are undead. Ready the zombie. While readied this way, if a zombie is destroyed, it rests instead. Huh, okay, that's That's pretty cool. In fact, this zombie can battle friendly tokens until the end of its turn. If this zombie destroys any token, return one zombie from your cemetery to your reserves. Interesting. We have the flying machine. Build. Add a flying machine from your reserve to any space surrounding this flying machine. And then swarm. Move this and all friendly flying machines one space each. It's pretty useful. Flying machines are ranged, so which would make sense because they're going to be flying. Wyverns, they're also ranged. Take flight. Move this wyvern exactly 3 spaces. Rush. The next time this wyvern battles, this turn it has a range of 3. That's very useful. Goblins. They're also melee. So for the goblins, enable. Another goblin performs up to 2 commands except for talents. Interesting. I should have also mentioned that all the abilities I'm reading are all talents. That'll make sense in a moment. Also, there's Insight. The next time this goblin battles, this turn it gets +1 threat for each surrounding enemy. That's interesting. Last but not least, you have the elves who are also ranged. Teamwork. Move another elf up to 3 spaces. Sharpshooter. The next time this elf battles this turn, it battles diagonally at range 2. You can't attack diagonally, you can only attack orthogonally for the most part. So those are what all the faction special abilities are. So as we play a game, you're probably going to choose 2 factions. Given the fact that when there's multiples of a faction adjacent from each other, they're stronger. Choosing more than 2 might make it harder to go with the whole strength in numbers thing. So I'll take the liberty of having the soldiers and the wyverns as one team, the goblins and the flying machines as another. On typical turn, there are a couple of things you can do. So basically any one token can do up to 3 different things. That could be moving. That could be moving 1, 2, 3. And then resting. Resting is important because resting allows you to move your surge point die higher. So if I were to rest on a turn, now I have 2 surge points. Surge points work very similarly to the command you already did. They can actually allow you to take more commands. Commands are also somewhat equivalent. Moving your character 1 space is the same as using either one of your token talents, except that you can only use each talent once per turn. I can do enable once and incite once, but I can't do either one of them twice. Same for the flying machine, soldiers, and the wyverns. So surge points basically allow you to store up an additional action for a future turn, which is very useful. The thing about resting is you want to make sure you're in a position where resting is safe. That's relatively safe. This, not so much. And then when you do get to attacking your enemy, the person being attacked gets to roll the evasion die. And if they're anything like me, they usually roll something that renders them dead. Keeping in mind the threat level. This particular goblin has 1 threat, meaning basically 1 health, because they're by themselves. In this case, they would have 2 threat. They would have 2, and they would have 3. Camera 1, camera 2, camera 3. Once one of your players has been defeated, you will place them into your bag and then replace them with another token you already have out. And then you'll place them anywhere along the outer rim. Sort of a brief overview of how Token Terrors Battlegrounds plays. It is very strategic. I like the fact that the board is relatively small, so it forces you to get right in there and start making decisions on where you're going to move to, how you're going to attack your enemy, figuring out what the best combination of factions are, team together so you can go closer to victory. I often find it best to pair a ranged attack faction with a more melee attack faction. As the game progresses, you'll be advancing on each other and fighting and battling it out. And like I said, if you're like me, rolling and dying incessantly. That's kind of a high level look at Token Terrors, which does a good job of blending somewhat of the movement and placement strategy of a chess, but with miniatures. Who doesn't like miniatures? And who doesn't like strategy? I believe this is season 1. The game is successful. There'll be more characters coming out, but 7 to start off with seems pretty sufficient. So I'd say if you are a fan of miniatures, doesn't like miniatures, and semi-abstract strategy battle games, Terrors Battlegrounds seems like something that would definitely be of interest to you.